Hello. Welcome back. Sorry, it took me a while to do this video. I was very busy the last couple weeks, especially this last week. Today, we are going to do a pretty big transformation. And we're going to go for something obviously a lot shorter. We're going to keep the top a decent amount of length on top. We're going to taper in the sides, and we're going to taper the back in. And it'll basically be like a modern slick back. A lot of texture on top. So right now I'm just cutting a lot of the bulk. I'm just taking a lot of that out because we don't need any of that hair. Because you don't want to start sectioning the hair. Excuse me. You don't want to section the hair and cut it with this length. It's going to be way too much. A lot to deal with. There's no point. So we want to wet it down. Make sure it's completely saturated. You can honestly take him to the sink. I have a sink at the salon. At the barbershop, I have a sink. I don't know why. I get lazy. Don't blame me. Don't hate me. I get lazy. And I wet it down with a spray bottle. So here I'm taking that first section, right on his temple, and we're going to cut it to the length that we want, to the desired length. And I know that I want his hair to flow back. So we're going to take it about here. It's going to be about 2.5 inches left, maybe 3 inches of hair length left. And typically a rule of thumb is you do not want to cut past your second knuckle. Again, I do it a lot. And the reason why you don't necessarily want to cut past your second knuckle is because there's not as much tension, right? So you see here, I'm not cutting past my second knuckle, because I can get way more tension in the first, between the first and second knuckle of my finger. I get a lot more tension, a lot more grip. I'm so sorry too, guys. In this video, there's a lot of times where my arm covers the damn head. Apologies. I'm not used to doing videos with longer hair, so I'm not used to my arm positioning. See right here? You can't see what I'm doing. But I didn't cut past the second knuckle. And you can see we're following the guideline. On the next video, I'm going to be very mindful of where my arm is. So right here, honestly, we should have done this beforehand. But we're going to create the horseshoe. So we're going to section his hair off right where the parietal ridge is, and that's where the side of the head curves off onto the top. I don't know what I was saying to him right there. So we want to section that off. You can call it the horseshoe because it looks like a horseshoe going around the whole head. I've seen a lot of educators call it the box. I like the horseshoe better. The horseshoe creates a better visual of what the actual shape of this parting is. And you can see it's right along the parietal ridge, right where the head likes to turn and change shape into the top of the head. And this is where we're going to start taking a lot of this bulk out and start creating a bit of shape. And it's going to leave a decent amount of weight too, with the angle that I have. And here I like to over direct that hair to the front and just chop that off right where his temple peak point would be. And I find that really cleans up that temple area. And we're going to keep taking diagonal sections. I don't know why I chose elevator music for the background. It seemed suiting at the time, but I don't know if I like it. We are gonna have to suffer through the elevator music. And you can see I'm following the guidelines. And these would be mobile guidelines. These would be moving guidelines. Because we are following the guideline and we are moving it all the way back. We are not bringing sections together all the way through. And we're going to keep going diagonally all the way to the back of the head until this whole side section of his head is completely cut. And this is a little more of an easy day-to-day way to do if you do a lot of cuts throughout the day and you want an easier way to get through longer haircuts without being extremely focused on parting everything and doing extremely accurate parts. I mean, those are extremely important, but there's times when we might have to just be a little quicker. But in time, you can get a lot better with sectioning, and you'll get faster. It just takes a lot of practice. You can see right here, I'm continuing that section through the back, and I'm going to show you guys a little more clearly what the sectioning is looking like, because it's hard for you guys to see that sectioning while I was doing it. And you can see right here is where I'm going into a bit of a V line. So the back of the head is going to be a V shape. So this side is going to angle out diagonally left to right. So the back of his head, the nape, is going to be shorter than those side lengths, right? You're going to go short to long from the nape to the side of the head, as you can see right there. So those pieces toward my body, those are going to be shorter than the pieces toward him, right? And that creates that V shape. The bottom of the nape, the neck area, we're not going to worry about the neckline until the end of the haircut. So here you can see I'm following that guideline, and you can see that V shape in the parting, in the sectioning, right? We're going shorter to long. Whoops, drop my comb. Throw that in the barbicide. If you drop your comb, throw it in the barbicide and grab a new comb. I remember in hair school, anytime someone would drop something, everyone would yell, "Barbicide!" And you would chuck it into the barbicide. Obviously, you clean it off first, and then you put it in the barbicide. You gotta wipe it off. Wipe it off. Rinse it through the sink, throw it in the barbicide. And you can see the shapes starting to take hold. Right here, we're gonna section out the rest of the horseshoe. I would advise you do this beforehand. Do the horseshoe before you do the whole haircut. Just makes your life a lot easier. You don't have to deal with sectioning and parting through all this hair. And you want to make sure you wet that down again. Make sure you're constantly spraying the hair with water. You want to always be saturating it. And you can see that V shape that I'm pointing out again, right? I'll throw it on the screen here. And that's typically what your partings are going to look like. Now, it does depend on the type of haircut you're doing, but in general, you're probably going to do that parting on most like longer precision haircuts. Anything you're going to do with shears. And we're going to keep taking that guideline and we're going to keep following it all the way to the side of the head. Sorry, it's a little unfocused on this part. Man, I'm still trying to figure out the autofocus on my DSLR. Like, how does it work, man? So right here, I'm over directing that hair and I'm cutting it off at the temple peak point. that's just going to allow me to have an easier time when I go in for my taper. So I'm taking all that bulk down. Like, we don't need any of that hair. We're going to taper that down. And we're going to bring it out, straight out from the head. And we're going to follow the guideline that we have underneath. And his hair's quite thick. He has a lot of hair, man. I think he said this was 6 years. 6 years of growth. Just adjusting my part. And you can see how this section is kind of in that same V shape that I was mentioning, right? And that V shape is going to help us keep the proper shape on the side of the head. See right there, I do not have good tension on that part whatsoever. Don't do that. Make sure you have good tension. Right here, this is where I have the proper tension. And you can see the guideline right in the front there. And we're bringing it all the way to the back, and we're going to connect both of those sides. And you can see the actual tension there. And we're going to pull that straight out. See the guideline all the way at the end there. And this is where I start kind of getting into a bit more point cutting when we get to the back of the head. This is going to help a lot with breaking up the hair. Giving it a little more movement so it's not so heavy. And now I took all the parts out from the horseshoe, and we are going to start connecting the top into the sides here. So I'm going to bring that first section of the top down. This is above the parietal ridge, and you can see the guideline right underneath. So that is what we're going to connect the top to, right to that guideline. You want to make sure you comb underneath, get that nice tension, get all those hairs fully extended, and you see your guideline, and cut right on your guideline. Again, try not to cut past your second knuckle. I went way past it on that one. I've been doing it for 13 years, so sometimes you break the rules a little bit. It's not a good idea. You could cut yourself pretty easily too. It's not just about the precision of the haircut. It's a little dangerous for the palm of your hand. You could really cut it, which I have done. And we're just going to keep working through this area of the head. And we're just going to continue following that guideline. And you can see as we get past the parietal ridge here, we can start really blending in the top to the sides here. And this is where a lot of that bulk is going to come out. And you can see we are just taking that guideline and we're following all the way through. I'm going to make another video pretty soon, more of a detailed precision haircut, long precision haircut. I'll take you guys through parting and sectioning all the different quadrants of the head, and we'll get a little more in depth. So here you can see the previous guideline, and I'm just following that all the way through. And keep in mind, this isn't the only way to do this haircut. A lot of different ways. And this is just one of them. And here you can see I'm taking that section up, basically right up to the center of the head, right to the apex, and all the way down to the nape. And we're just continuing to follow that guideline, and you can see it right there. And we cut that. Please don't go past the second knuckle, guys. I know I'm doing it, but don't do it. You're gonna cut yourself. And here I'm just notching in there. I'm starting to realize that my arm was in the shots. So here, just moving the hair around, kind of seeing the shape that we got going on, and I actually really liked it. Like the hair right like this. And here we're doing the same thing. We're just continuing that guideline from the center onto the left side of his head. I know this part you can't really see, but it's coming. Just trust the guideline, follow your guidelines, and you'll see the one that I have right here. And we're just continuing all the way through the back of that guideline. I'm just taking a little more bulk out of there and just kind of seeing what's going on here. And I know he doesn't want to go super short, but we are still gonna taper in the sides. We're gonna taper it in, and we're gonna taper it in the nape as well, taper in the neck. And here I'm picking up these parts. I'm just parting these sections, and I'm just point cutting into them. And I'm just going to continue through the back. And here I'm just trying to see the shape that I'm creating in the back there. And I think that's a pretty good length. And now we're going to go in and really get the sides evened out with that top. And I think we're just doing a little bit of cross-checking right here, actually. And here I'm just continuing to cross-check. And so now here for the nape, we're just going to kind of take off those baby hairs, the superfluous hairs. Superfluous? Oh my god, I can't speak right now, dude. Superfluous? I give up. We're just going to chop those down. We're going to go back with the trimmer and get rid of all of that. So it's not a massive deal. It doesn't have to be perfect there. It really depends what your aim is and what you're going for. Now on Instagram, you're going to see a lot of these longer style haircuts with a lot of these wispy napes and a lot of accent pieces. And a lot of that is very editorial. It's very, very fashion focused. So it's not as often that you're gonna get people that come into the shop, into the barbershop, into the salon that get that. You might, depends where you live, I don't know, but where I am, you don't get a huge amount of that. You get some of that, but most people want everyday basic haircuts, not basic, but haircuts that are going to be easy to style, haircuts that are going to be easy to maintain, and something that's going to last them at least a month, anywhere from 2 to 4 weeks, right? And here I'm just going in there, I'm just breaking it up. We're just point cutting, and we're just making sure we really break up a lot of this heaviness. His hair's quite thick, and it's been growing for so long, right? So we're gonna give it some texture, especially in the back here. And I'm just making sure both sides are even. I think I was a little uneven on that right side there. And now we are gonna blow dry. We're gonna give it a nice blow dry, and then we are going to taper it afterwards. I find if you blow dry the hair first, it gives you a really nice foundation to get that taper in there, because you get all the hairs fully cleaned up. You get all the, well, let me explain this. There's hydrogen bonds and disulfide bonds in the hair, and these bonds are moldable, and when they are wet. So when you wet the hair down, you break down the bonds, and these bonds are moldable into the shape that you want to create. So while you're drying the hair, you're actually drying the hydrogen and the disulfide bonds into the shape that you want. And when the hair is dry, then they stick in that shape until they break again, which is when they get wet. So effectively what we're doing is we're breaking down these bonds, and we're controlling them, and we're molding them into the shape that we want, and we're controlling the way the hair goes. And you can see he's liking it. I think he liked it. I don't know. I'm pretty sure he liked it. Massive change though from that long hair. But I like this style, man. If I had straight hair, I would try to do my style like that. What am I doing? Okay, so like we're gonna taper it. We fully blow dried the hair. We're gonna clip a lot of those long pieces, and we're gonna start with a 1.5 guard open. Take that off, still with an open guard. Go in there, and then a 1 guard, open lever, and then we're gonna close the lever. Stay right beneath that. Yeah, we're staying right beneath the line that we created with the 1.5 guard. And now, with the 1/2 guard, we're gonna start open and slowly close the lever as we fade out that last line. And I think I missed a little bit. Yeah, I missed a little bit at the top there with the 1.5 guard. And right here, I'm just gonna go in and just barely clean up around the ears. We're not gonna go all the way around, because I don't want to cut off any of those long hairs that are flowing back so nicely. We don't want to ruin the shape there on the side. And keep in mind, your clips are going to mess up their hair a little bit. You might want to re-blow dry it afterwards. And you could do this without clipping their hair up. I just like to do it. I like to be extra safe. So again, we started with the with the open lever, and then we're gonna go in with the 1.5 guard open lever, and then we're gonna close it and stay right underneath. And here's the open lever again. After we create the guideline with the open lever, we go in with the 1 guard with an open lever, and then we close it. And we're always staying underneath the guideline that we just created, right? So here is a half guard open lever, and then I'm closing it ever so slightly each time I move down on that fade. And once again, back with the 1.5. I like to go back to my biggest guard at the end of the fade. I like to use my biggest guard to clean it back up, and then sometimes I troubleshoot and I go back with my 1 again. And I go back in there, do some lever play. If I see dark spots lower, I keep the lever more closed. If I see dark spots higher up in the fade, I keep the lever more open because I want to keep hitting higher up in the fade, right? And we're just going to line them up. Line up the tempo peak point with my Andy Slimline Pro. Take those clips out. And I did line them up by the ear. I just did not record that part. And we're just going to clipper over comb the nape area and get rid of a lot of that bulk on the bottom area because we are going to taper that in. And if you wanted to, you don't even have to cut the bottom area right here in the nape with the scissors like I was doing. You could have waited, but I like to kind of just get rid of a lot of the bulk at the bottom so that this part doesn't take me as long. And here, those hairs on his nape, they grow up. So I like to put the comb downward and upward depending on where the hair's growing. And you can see we're lifting the comb up as we get higher above the nape because we do not want to cut above the nape and into his occipital bone. We do not want to do that. We don't want to ruin the shape. And here I'm also hitting it with a open lever, no guard. Hitting his nape, creating that first guideline. And then we're using I believe a 3 guard. And that's open, by the way. The reason I'm using that is because, sorry, that was a 2 guard. It's not a 3 guard. I think I said 3. That was a 2 guard. And the reason we use that is because I don't want to cut too deep into it. And then we go back with the 1.5 guard, which I have on now. And we start with the open lever, and then we gradually close it as we work down the fade. And now we are going to put the 1 guard on with an open lever and stay below what we just did with the 1.5 guard. And we're just going to keep fading that in ever so slightly. And now we have the 0 guard, the half guard. I believe Andy's calls it a 0 guard and Wall calls it a half guard. I like to go back with my 1. I call this troubleshooting the fade. If you troubleshoot the fade, you go back, you can hit it with your 1.5 again, with your 1 guard again, open the lever, close the lever. And remember, the higher up any dark spots would be that you want to eliminate, the more open your guard is going to be, the more open your lever is going to be. And the lower the dark spot, you would want to choose something with a more closed lever, right? You want to choose something that's going to be shorter. And right here, we're just going to go around the ears ever so slightly. I'm not going to go crazy right at the top of the ear right there. I'm going to stay right below it. And we're just going to nicely clean up the nape. And just line it up. Take your time with this. We don't need to rush it. We got time, baby. We have time. And you can see, if you have patience, and you keep combing the hair and you keep chopping away in the same spot at it, and be very meticulous, be very, very accurate, you will get a very clean lineup. And you will be happy that you took your time, because it comes out looking very nice. And this is the finished product. I really hope you guys like the video. I hope this helps you guys. I'm gonna make some more videos. I'll be quicker. I'm sorry, I'll be quicker with my uploads. I get very busy, guys, with the shop, and I just appreciate anyone that watches this. Anyone that messages me on Instagram, feel free. Any questions, feel free, I'll answer them as quick as I can. Thank you guys for the support. See you guys later.